What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we're going to be talking some more about Destiny 2 and some very interesting topics, mainly those Taken King subclasses and how Bungie has hinted towards them in recent E3 interviews. I'll be listing off all 5 bits of evidence suggesting the Sunbreaker, Nightstalker and Stormcaller might just be in Destiny 2, but they're being kept secret for now, as well as a few other topics as well. So firstly, let's talk about those subclasses. I did make a video a while ago talking about the original leak, which correctly predicted everything else in Destiny 2, and also did say the 3 Taken King subclasses are also in Destiny 2. But since then, a lot more hints and teasers came out from E3, which I want to talk about with you guys and get your thoughts on. So during E3, David Allen, who is the executive producer of Destiny 2, he was interviewed by a channel called Press Pause. So when asked about these subclasses, he went through talking about the usual ones we know about, so Dawnblade, Arcstrider, Sentinel, and then the returning ones being Gunslinger, Striker, and Voidwalker. And then the interviewer then asked, are those all the powers we're getting, or are there still more to come, or can you guys not talk about that? And by powers, he was of course talking about subclasses, so he's asking, are there more subclasses to come, can you not talk about them? And then David Allen from Bungie smiled and responded saying, we've still got some things to talk about later this summer. And if there were no more subclasses, they would simply say that, but instead, they just say, we can't talk about that yet, or we've still got some stuff to show off later this summer, wherever it might be. Now, that wasn't the only interview from E3. There was a different one done by PC Gamer. I've already talked about one they did with Luke Smith, but they did a separate one with David Shaw, who is the PC lead, and also Thomas Gories from Vicarious Visions, who is a studio working on the PC version of Destiny 2. Now, PC Gamer flat out asked very simply, how many subclasses are you planning to ship with? And they both responded by saying, I don't think we're saying that yet. And then my answer is no, I can't say that. So once again, there's clearly something going on here. Do you really think they'd reply like that if there were just 6 classes and that was it? And it's because of teasers like this that a lot of people do think there is going to be all 9 subclasses in Destiny 2. And Bungie wouldn't want people getting their hopes up if there wasn't actually 9. They would simply shut down the rumor back when it started like they always do. And they would just say there's 6 subclasses. But instead, every time they're asked, they kind of dodge the question and say, we're not talking about that right now. We've got more stuff to show later this summer. And I've seen enough Bungie interviews to know when they're kind of keeping something secret. So in my opinion, I think they're definitely alluding to more subclasses coming down the line, and especially how they can't answer the question about how many subclasses will be in Destiny 2 at launch is definitely a big giveaway. Now, there's a third bit of evidence which I mentioned a while back but popped up again, but this is when Bungie showed off the inventory screen for Destiny 2, revealing the emblems, and if you look closely where these subclasses are, you can still see there are 2 more subclass boxes next to the Dawnblade, which of course is selected. So in one of the first trailers a while back, you can see these 2 boxes next to it, but now in this image, which is a more recent build, you can see there are still those 2 boxes. So obviously there are 3 subclasses in total there, and in Destiny 1 there was just 1 block. There was one that was blank because there was only 2 to start off with, but you can see there's 2 boxes next to it, meaning of course 3 in total. So again, another suggestion that are 3 subclasses for each actual class. And now the fourth bit of evidence is something I remember from all the times I've played Destiny 2, but when you look at the character in their hand, it cycles through all 3 elements, so Solar, Arc, and Void, and it does it for all of them, the Hunter, Titan, and Warlock, so it's definitely the least solid bit of evidence. It's just a nice visual thing, but it's another one of those subtle things. You can see a Hunter with Void energy in his hands, a Warlock with Arc energy, and a Titan with Solar energy, so thematically, it sort of suggests it, but admittedly, out of all the evidence so far, this doesn't exactly confirm it. Just a cool little visual thing, but you can see all 3 of the classes with all 3 elements of damage. And now the 5th and final piece of evidence, which is by far the strongest, but let's not forget the leaked post in the first place where this actually came from, which so far has been 100% correct. People are normally very skeptical of leaks, which is understandable because most of them are purely made up for attention. But like I said before, this post predicted everything and didn't get a single thing wrong. So it's kind of hard to doubt it and say this thing might be incorrect, because so far it's got a proven track record. And in case you didn't know, the leak said before the reveal, they talked about the new weapon system, 4v4 mode, the countdown mode, new class abilities, what the subclasses are. They said all of this before the reveal, back when we knew nothing. So clearly this guy has some inside information. The only 2 things we're still waiting to be confirmed are if the Taken King subclasses are in the game, and also if the mode is called Trials of the 9. But absolutely nothing, like I said, in this post has been proved incorrect or wrong or inaccurate in any way. So at this point, it's kind of hard to argue with it, and it's just another bit of evidence that does suggest the Sunbreaker, Nightstalker, and Stormcaller might be in Destiny 2. So that is all the evidence simply presented to you guys, and of course let me know your thoughts down below. Do you believe it? Do you think these Taken King subclasses are in the game? I personally, you guys know, I just want the Nightstalker, so I'm really hoping it is true, and I'm hoping the Nightstalker has found its way into Destiny 2. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see until Bungie unveil it, or if they just leave it secret until launch for us to find out when the game comes out. So talking more about subclasses, but this time information that came from E3 interviews. This one is from the same PC Gamer article. So they asked, given the changes to the Striker subclass and the Fist of Havoc super, should we expect to see the Warlock Nova Bomb also reworked into a roaming super? So David Shaw responded by saying, with the supers we're bringing into Destiny 2 from Destiny 1, we refer to them as being remastered. I don't think you should expect if we're going to remaster something, we're going to remaster all of them in the same direction. Whatever expectation you have, they may or may not be met, whether it comes back or not. So pretty interesting, but also kind of open-ended response. But essentially what I think he's saying is that just because the Striker and Gunslinger have been remastered in a certain way, don't expect the Voidwalker to be done in the same fashion. And if you're expecting the Voidwalker to be remastered now as a roaming super, the same as Fist of Havoc, it might not meet your expectations, and they're going to do it a bit differently. So I think what he's getting at here is that essentially the Striker Titan that's now got multiple Fist of Havocs, the Golden Gun has got even more shots, so you might assume the Nova Bomb now has multiple Nova Bombs, but instead what he's saying is that it's going to be a little bit different, and it does actually make sense because we have seen the Nova before being activated in that clip, and it is really hard to know what's going on, but it does start as one kind of big lump, and it splits into a bunch of smaller tracking axiom bolts, so it does kind of make sense. I'm thinking the new Nova Bomb might be something you throw at enemies, it does a bit of damage, and then it splits off into a bunch of axiom bolts that go and track enemies nearby, and it does kind of make sense with kind of David Shaw saying it's not going to be a straight up roaming super now. And then the final thing to mention is that I already covered the Sentinel subclass for the Titan. That has the option for the super buttons, you hold them, and instead you pop a defender bubble instead of putting the shield out. And that was some pretty crazy news to come from E3. And then someone else asked Bungie, seeing as the Sentinel now has the bubble, does that mean the Dawnblade has the self-res? And unfortunately the answer is no. So self-res is completely gone. There is no kind of secret way to activate it in Destiny 2 with the Dawnblade, and it's definitely not going to make a return. Self-res is gone, even though the defender bubble is in the game. Through the Sentinel, self-res is not going to be coming back, and there's going to be no way to come back to life, unfortunately. So that has been a massive discussion about the subclasses in Destiny 2, the Taken King ones, and also a bit more info from E3 we got. As always, a like rating on the video would be much appreciated, and I'll see you guys in the next one.